You know the thing,
All right.
thing has already been hacked into, right?
We left off on 4. Yeah, but it's much better now. Okay, so we left off on chapter 4, which is about lists. Y'all remember that? Which is really just a fancy version of strings. It was part of the sequential collection. Y'all remember that? So if I was to ask you a question, which collection does it belong to, you could pick that. Okay. Chapter 5 is probably one of the most useful chapters. I mean, strings are very important, okay? But chapter 5 is all about files, reading and writing files, which is, way back when I had a computer, I had a TRS-80 color computer with 4K of RAM. That's it. No storage whatsoever. I literally would turn it on, type the program of the game I wanted to play, then play the game. When I turn it off, it's gone. Turn it back on the next day. That's probably why I got good at programming and typing, because if you want to play a game, you literally had to write the entire game to play it. Because that's what the real early computers were. There was nothing else. Then I got a Commodore 64 and so on and so forth. But the whole point is you need to be able to save stuff. Okay? If you can't save stuff, you're kind of, you ever forget to save something? You're like, I hate it when I'll grade a student's work and I type a whole bunch of stuff. Then when I go to save it, it's like save or don't save. I have in the past accidentally clicked the don't save. I'm like, oh crap. Because I'm all about efficiency. And see, I could click the save button and then the next button. Okay? But if I click the next button, it automatically calls the save button. So it's one less click, kind of. But I accidentally missed it once in a while. So, so it's very important to save stuff. So we're going to see how that works today. Okay? We're going to be working with files and some looping, stuff like that. Okay? We're not going to do the whole chapter today. We're just going to do a portion of it. Okay? But because I want to do some examples. All right. When working with files, we have a couple things you can do. First of all, we can open them. Obviously, that's good. We can close them. Okay? When you open a file, what should you do? Close it when you're done. Yes, you should. Because that's a pet peeve in my house. If you open something, close it. If you open the cabinet, close it. If you open the peanut butter jar, close the peanut butter jar. That drives me bananas. Oh no, microwave's a different story. You can leave them open. Because that drives Cameron crazy. Okay. But when you open a file, you can open it for reading or writing. Okay. Do you always need to open something for reading? For writing? No. If you notice the newer versions of Office, they default to not editable. So if I open a document, it comes up and I have to click another button to allow editing. In other words, so it's opening and read only. Because you might not want to change it. So I understand why they're doing it. It's just different. Okay, so open the file name and R for read. Open the file name and W for write. Okay, easy enough there. And we are going to do a sample of it. Okay, so suppose we got a rainfall.txt. I wonder if I can copy this out. I didn't try this. Let me try this real quick. See if I can copy that. No, I cannot. Okay. I didn't think I could. Okay. But they have a file here called rainfall.txt. Okay. The first is the location and then the amount. Okay, easy enough. Well, if we were to save it in a file called rainfall.txt, that's how we would do it. So I want to do this. I want you all to do this if you can. Okay. Luckily for me, I already typed one in, so I don't have to type it again. I'm going to open up two things here. Let me change the file association. If you ever want to make it so you can just click on the PY files and bring up idle, you have to go to Open With, Browse. We're going to go to C, Python. Macs do it automatically, but this stuff doesn't. Lib, then idle lib, and you know what, idle bat. Now when I click on it, it will automatically open it in Python. Yeah. Idle. There it is. Okay. Automatically opens it. Now I just typed this in. Actually, I want to get rid of this for the moment. Get rid of that. We're going to get back to that other stuff in a minute. Okay. Now, I also have a file in here called sample text file. I just put some text in it. Okay. So I'd like you guys to do something like this. Make a file, call it whatever. Mine's called sample text file.txt. Just has some text in. I don't care what it says, just something. Okay? So let me give you all a minute to do that. And then in idle, we're going to open it. Now, I put them both in the same directory. That way I didn't have to worry about any pathing issues. Okay? And the F is just my variable to hold the file. Okay. You can call it anything you want. I think in the book he calls it something different. Oh, I opened it twice, didn't I? Let me close this one. Yes. Let me open it again for you. Hold on. Let me open it one more time because I had it open twice. There you go. Now I got the latest version. Okay. I'm going to shrink this down so I can actually have multiple things on the screen. Okay. So my text file is really just some random text. It's nothing special. Okay. Alright. Oh, we need this R at the top so you can see it. Alright. So basically the syntax is variable name equals open, then the file name. Okay? Include the extension, and then a comma, and then R for read, W for write, and so on and so forth. W write includes read, by the way. You don't have to do RW. Then we have a for loop. What the for loop is, it says for line in F. Okay? So that means for each line in my text file, do something. What are we going to do? We're going to print it. Okay? So if this works correctly, it should read this text file here and print it on the screen. Everybody see that? Should. So I'm going to hit F5. There it goes. It read the text file in. Yeah. So I read the text file, and you can see it's the same thing. Just bigger because I got the font zoomed in here. Okay? I'd be okay on opening files like that. If I was to edit the file, I say I edit this. Where's my mouse? I lost my mouse. Okay, I really lost my mouse. Okay, say I edited this file, added some text to it. Now if I ran this, it should now show the new text, so we'll know that it's actually working. There it is, Ken is here. So it is reading the active file. Okay. Now, if I edit this file, but don't save it, is it going to get it? No. Let me show you. So if I edit that file, hit F5, it's not going to show the latest part where I said in forever because I didn't save the file. So you actually have to, it can only read the files that are saved. It's not reading out of active memory. It's reading it off the drive. Okay? Because someone asked me one day, they say, hey, I typed this stuff in, but it's not working. Never even thought about asking the question, did you save it? Yes, you must save it for it to work. Okay? Alright, so we were able to read our file in, and we were able to see it on the screen. Okay? So far, so good? Alright. Now, let's change it to W, see what happens. Okay. Well, what happened was I changed it to write mode. Okay. And it doesn't like it. Because this is actually reading it, not writing it. Okay. So we're actually going to talk about that in a minute. So just remember, read is just an R, then it'll run. Well, did it not run? Come on. What did I do to it? I broke it. What did I do to it? I didn't run. It's already saved. Save it again? I mean, it's literally saved already. No, I don't want to save the text file. I told you all we had to do is save the text file. Alright, fine. You know, once in a while, anyone got kids in here? Some of us have kids. Sometimes you got to make them feel special. Cameron, you feeling special now? Good job, Cameron. Alright, so let's continue on. Well, so we want to iterate over a file. Oh, actually, before we get there, they mentioned close. Everybody see that close right there? And if you look at my code, I'm closing the file. This first line opens the file for reading. Then we do stuff with it, and then we close it. Everybody see that? Very critical you close it. What? No, not important yet. Years ago, I actually wrote some accounting software for a client of mine, and he loved it. But it would crash. I found out why. I was opening a connection to a data file, but I was never closing it. And anytime you do a query, it would open it again. Kept opening it, but I was never closing it. And what would happen is, he literally would leave his computers on 24/7 without logging out or anything. So the next morning, they would run out of memory because they literally kept opening this file, have hundreds and hundreds of file handlers open to that file. The way I figured it out one day, I looked in Task Manager, and you could see the program was running like 200 times. So what it was doing, it was making a call to open the file. It's called a file handler, and left it open. So I had to edit my code to go close it. So it's kind of important. Some languages, now I did a test downstairs, which I'm not going to do, it'll take too long. I did a test downstairs like this, opening and closing, and Python uses about the same amount of memory. I did it with just a bunch of opens with no closing, and it does seem that Python does use some more memory. But it's not consistent enough where I can just show you real easily, so I'm going to... But just remember, whenever you open something, you should close it. If you don't close it, what do you think is going to happen? Think we're going to error out? No, it's going to work perfectly. It's going to work like a champ. Because the program doesn't know. Maybe I still want it open for some reason. So you just remember, you should close the file. It's the correct thing to do. Okay? Just like they were supposed to open my door at the hotel. They didn't do that either. A lot they didn't do. Okay, so let's continue. One more time?
Is that file handler still running the backup of this machine?
Actually, it runs inside the Python. It runs inside the Python shell, which I already closed, so it cleans it out anyway. A lot of the newer language, like specifically Java, has what's called the garbage collection service. When you're done with a method and stuff like that, it does clear out memory. Python does that for the most part as well. So when I clicked F5 and ran it, okay, the shell is running right here. And even if the file was open, the moment I click this to close the shell, the whole Python instance is now gone anyway. Okay? So, all right, let's continue on. Okay. Interacting over lines in a file. Okay. We have a for loop. I already did this part for you. Is that my phone?
You put it on silent. That was me, sorry.
That's actually a new adjunct of ours. He's going to be teaching a couple classes, and he has some questions, I'm sure. But all right, so the for loop says for line in F. Again, F is the instance of the file that's open. So it's the file handler. I think they call it file something in there. Reference, I think they call it. So for each line in the file. So what happened if my file was only one line? Just print one line. If it's 1,000 lines, it'll print 1,000 lines. Okay? So for line in F means for each line in the file F, do something. What would happen if I did this? I want you to tell me what the output's going to be. If I did this. Is it going to double it, or is it going to automatically do the next line? The question is it going to double the output, or is the first print going to print one line and the next print going to print the next line?
I think that's
It's going to double it. Because we didn't actually read it again. See, in a lot of language, you actually have to do a read line, which we can do in this as well. And I wrote, let me show you another program here real quick. I wrote this program the other day just playing around. The index of coincidence. It basically takes a text file, calculates the number of letters, and then outputs the results on the screen. Okay? Nothing special. Calculates the index of coincidence, and so, kind of handy. But my code isn't really the most efficient. And I actually use the commands a little different. I use the read command. So really, I could have actually used it. I could change the way this works to make it more efficient. But I'm not requiring you to do that, so don't freak out. And the camera's like, darn, leave it on the screen a little longer. I'm recording this anyway, so now I need to go in and blur it. Oh, you gotta blur it out. Yeah, that's right. Cameron wrote his, and it was like Chinese or something. I don't know what language it is. It was in Python, I think, but it's weird. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, so you can see we can have a loop to read in a line. That's what this is doing. And then we can process it. We can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. And that just made it duplicated. Okay, here's the rainfall file. Now, they're opening the file called rainfall.txt. I was hoping I could have found the darn file somewhere, but I couldn't find it down there. I didn't feel like typing it all in. But we're going to use my file anyway. Now, what they're doing is they're creating a file handler called rainfile. So they're opening it up for reading. Then for a line in rainfile. This a line right here, they could have called it anything they wanted to. It doesn't matter. And so with rainfile. Okay. I'm going to edit my program to work similar to theirs. I want this one right there. So I'm going to edit this. I'm going to say, okay, values equals line.split. Okay. So now I'm telling it, take the file called line, or the line of the file called line, split it. Remember we talked about split, last week, I think? We're going to break it apart and store it in a list called values. So we're actually using lists here, okay? Now, so if I run this right now, what do you think will happen? Anything? Let's see what happens. Should be the exact same thing. Yeah, it just does the same thing because I told it to store it in the list called values, but I didn't tell it. I'm not doing anything with that. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to values. Okay? Just like we talked about lists last time, I want to see the values, but I want to see the first element in the list. So what it should do, should take my file, split it on all these spaces in here, and give me the first element in the file. That's what it should do. Okay? First element in each line, I'm sorry. Well, look at that. So if we look at my text file here, let me format my text so you can see it a little bigger. Format font. Let's go 18. Okay. Now you can see it a little bit. You see what it did was the split command took each line, broke it apart based on the spaces. Remember, we can use split. We could split on other things if we wanted to. Broke it apart on the spaces, created a list called values, and I'm saying for each line, output the first element in the list. Okay? So far, so good. Okay. What if I want to see the second element in the list? Can I just do that? Well, let's try it. See what happens. Whoa. It crashed. Why?
Some of the strings didn't have a second value.
Damn, he's quick. Very good. What he said was some of the strings didn't have a second value. Okay? Obviously, we got is. We got is. We got is. But then why did we get way over here on this guy? Right, because etc.ken is all one thing. It's no spaces. So it really split on this one right here. And it crashed right on this line here because we only have one value. Okay? Okay, and it tells you it crashed on line 5. You see that? Line 5 right there? Let's see what's on line 5. Okay. Now in here, you can actually look down in the bottom of your editor and see line 5 is this. The line number's in the bottom right hand corner. So we know the error is on line 5 right there. It's printing the first value. And what it did is it crashed. It got to that point in my text file right there and said, hey, what am I supposed to do? Now, in the real world, is that a good way of writing code? Oh, no. We'd want to put some exception handling in there. Maybe check, is there a second value before we try to output it? But we're not there yet, okay? Now, could we fix this? Sure. I could put a second value. So will that solve the problem? What do you think?
It'll still crash on both.
It'll still crash on the last one. Let's make sure, though. Let's test this theory. It got all the way down to done, so it output done, which was this done, not the last done. And then it got to this line and crashed. So everybody see how we're doing that? Okay. So if I was to edit this file and remove that, save. Now let's try it. Okay? Still crashed. Still crashed. Let me make sure I saved it. Everybody agree I click save? Alright, let's run it again. Still crashed. Does anyone know why it keeps crashing?
Because there's an extra line.
Ooh, there's an extra line. You see my cursor's blinking right there under the A in almost? Which means there's another line. It's a very short one, has 0 length. So if I hit the back arrow and then save, now it should fix it. Perfect. Okay. Whole reason I wanted to show you that, I mean, did anyone ever type a document and you go to print it and you get an extra page? It's because you had a bunch of carriage returns at the end or something like that. So you got to remember those are lines, even though there's no value in them. I mean, there's still a line. It's called the null length, but you know, it's still a line. So that can be an error when working with files. So that's kind of why I mentioned it. Okay. What if we wanted to access multiple values? Okay, I'm going to change my code right here. Just like his is that rainfall stuff. Okay. I want this. I'm going to say that. And I'm going to do that. What's that thing? Concatenation. Okay? Alright, my phone's here. We're good. And values 2. Well, let's do 1 and 0. Okay. That way we don't have any issues. Okay? I'm just changing it so that we can output 2 different values from the same line. Okay? Now let's run it. And you'll see it outputted the first token, then the word and then the next one. Okay? Easy enough there? Nothing spectacular? Okay. Now, if we look at his example, what he does, remember our rainfall file is right there. It's the location, and then it is the amount. Okay. So in his code, he's basically saying value 0, which was the location, had then value 1, which is the amount, inches of rain. Okay. Reason is, when you work with a lot of data files, I mean, which would be a better data file? Would that right there be a good data file? Or would this actually be a better data file?
No.
What do you think? 1 or 2? This is 2. Roy says 1. He says 2. Well, the answer is 1. The reason 1's better is because normally when you have a program that saves data, you want to conserve space. So you want the location and the amount. That's all you want. Plus, I mean, yeah, that's a nice output, but what if we want to use it for something else? You know, it would be nice if we didn't have all that extra stuff already in there. Right, this one's a better output. It's a use of the data file, but it's probably not the way to store it. Okay? Does anyone see any issues with this data file? Okay. Well, what if it was Boca Raton? How would that work in there? Remember, they're using split. They're going for the first space. So if Boca Raton is 2 words. So it'd be Boca space Raton space a number. So what would happen is the amount would end up being Raton. See, so the output would be Boca has Raton inches of rain. So that, you can see how this is still probably not the best format for a data file. What you normally do is, what she hasn't covered here, is put a delimiter in there, like a colon or something. So, and it kind of sucks because for the longest time you could use an @ sign. Well, we can't use that anymore because that's used for email. Is a colon a good one? Yeah, but I could see some data using colons in it, like time. You know, 9:18 is normally 9:18. So it's tough to figure out a good delimiter for your data. So, but a space, not a good delimiter for data. And but it's okay for this example, but in the real world, it would really suck. Okay. So far, so good. Everybody with me? Okay. All right. So here's the output of that. Now let's write to a file. Okay. Well, let's think about another example. What if we want to read something in? So maybe read the data from the, but then write the pretty file like you saw, especially like web pages. Okay. A lot of web pages. Right, so if I'm going to go to weather.gov, okay, let me go there real quick. Now, if I accidentally bring up a porn site, it's not my fault. Because there's sometimes you mistype a website just a little and you get some nice material. Okay, so if I'm going to look up weather.gov here, okay, I'm looking up from my house, I think. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, there it is. So it pulled the weather for Choctaw, Oklahoma. That's where I live. Okay. So what it did was it contacted the weather repository, pulled the data, then it generated this page or portion of the page. So you do need the ability to read and write. Okay. Even though you might not think this web page got written, but it had to be written to be read. I mean, that's the only way they work. Okay, so what is the weather? It's nice out. Nice, all right. Yeah, all right, so let's continue on. Okay, so you could very easily write to a file. Okay, so let's go back to our file here. And I'm going to edit our file. Okay, so now we opened it for reading on that first line. Now I'm going to open it for writing. Okay, I'm going to call it FO. For file output, not something else. Okay. Open. We'll say output.text. Okay. This time I want to do W. Okay. Now what else should I do? What should be the next line of code I add? Probably down here. Should always close your file. Whenever you work with files, try to make it a point of when you write the opening line, you write the closing line. That way you don't forget about it. Okay. Now let's run this, and it did nothing. Okay. But let me go look over here. But I do have a new file. Let me delete it. Okay. Everybody agree it's gone? There's nothing between N and P. Those of you in the cheap seats, trust me, there's nothing there. Okay. So I'm going to run this again. It ran. Now you look, I have a new file. So what do you think's in this file? It's going to be my output. But really, I haven't told it anything yet. I really just said, open a file for writing. Then at the end, I closed it. Did I do anything with it? No. So that's something to watch. Okay, so let's see what he's doing. So he's got the rainfall lines. Okay. What if this line right here, no, not that one, hold on. I want, minimize you. I want this line right here. Trying to make so I see both on the screen at the same time. What if, instead of printing it to the screen, what if I said fo.write values 0? So what will that do? Well, we already had the file open for reading and the file open for writing, so we're going to read in a line, split it, and then we're going to write the first values to my output file and then close both. Okay? Let's see what it does. Did nothing. Why? Let me save this so the camera doesn't have to tell me again. Where'd my file go? Here we are. Okay, why isn't it doing anything? Oh, duh! I know it's not doing this because I took out the print line. Duh! Jeez. I took out the print line. So it was working perfectly. Let's run it one more time. So it's doing exactly what I told it, which is write to this stupid file over here. Now I'm going to open this with TextPad.
You guys know when we were kids, your parents did really stupid things?
I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it on purpose. Okay, so I opened that file right there just so you can see it, okay? Now I'm going to run this again. Oh, my file has changed. You want to see the new one? Yeah, I mean, it's the same output because it doesn't change anything. But my point is, TextPad tells you when it changed. So we know the data did change. Like, say I delete all that. We'll save it with just that in it. Now if I run it again, you'll notice it changes. Want to reload it? Yes. Okay. So what we got was this, etc.can, etc. period, and almost. Kind of handy. But the output sucks. Okay. How can we fix that? Well, let's look at this. See how he's hard coding that? What's that do, anybody? A line break. /n is a line break. So maybe I want to output that plus that. Okay. Now let's run it. Reload it. Now they're on separate lines. Okay. Very easy. You can just tell it to do whatever you want. Maybe I keep opening the wrong file. Maybe I'm going to write it for output so I can use it for something. Maybe I want to put colons between them instead or something. Now I can output them with colons between them. Okay. So you could very easily make a data file that's limited with colons this way. Let me change this so it's a little bit bigger. Document classes, text, font, Courier New, 18. Okay, let's give it some boldness. Alright, so let me run it again so we can see this actually doing something. Those of you who couldn't see before. Okay. Maybe I want to put a double colon as the delimiter. Okay, it ran. I reload the file, and now I see it has a double colon between it. Pretty simple to do to output to a file. Okay. All right. So we did that. So it's, he's writing. Now, anyone know what this means? Cat. Here, let me enlarge it a little. Anyone know what that means? Other than Roy? And maybe Cameron too. Don't answer. Anyone? What does it do?
Is he changing the file name?
Not quite. Okay. Cat means concatenate. I mean, basically, it's outputting it to the screen. He's running it obviously on a Linux-based system or a Mac, one or the other. I don't know what he's running this on. But it's just like doing type in Windows. In type, you can use the type command. In Windows, you say type whatever. So what he basically said was output the contents of the screen or of the file to the screen. There's his data file. Okay. So what he did was some calculations on it, then output it to the screen. All right. So far so good. Everybody with me? Now, string formatting. Okay. We already did this right here. We already did the whole output the different values, the first and the second one. Nothing new there. Okay. But we can also use format specifiers, they call them. Now in Java, when you use them, you need to switch to the whole printf for formatting. But here we don't have to. So let's do this real quick. So I'm going to change my... We're no longer going to write to the file. This time we're just going to write it to the screen. But I'm going to put out this. Format specifier S and format specifier S. I will explain what all this does. Okay. All right. Should be... Okay, now let's run it, see what it does, and I'll explain what it's doing. Did we get rid of values? Oh, what's that period in there for? I meant a comma. Darn keyboard screwed up yet again. Okay, so the output... Wait a minute. Why didn't I do that? Hold on. I should have done it. Yeah, why? Oh, because I forgot that. That's why. My fault. Sorry. It's a little bit different. So I need... This is a percent sign rather than a comma. Okay. That should work now. Okay. There you go. So it output the first value, then the word and, then the second value. Okay. So what our code did was, let's get rid of this. I basically told it, okay, print on the screen. Let me make this a little wider here. Print %s, which means means I'm going to output something as a string. That's what it means. And then the word and, then I'm going to output something else as a string. And what I'm going to output is the first value and then the second value. Okay? So I could even change this. I could say first, second. Okay? Now it'll be easier to tell. First, this. Second is. Okay? Easy enough to do. So let's talk a little more about format specifiers. Okay, you use the % sign. I totally forgot. This is where it's different right there. I forgot that. Okay. It's a string operator called the format operator format specifier. There's some, rather than just S like we did, there's actually quite a few of other ones we can use, which we're going to see here. We can use D or I. Okay. So why would we use D for integer and I for long integer? What the heck does D? S means string, easy enough. So why is integer D? Anyone know? It's decimal integer. That's why. It stands for decimal integer. So just I is a long integer. U is an unsigned integer. We're not getting into that. F is a float. E is exponential. Okay. Now, yeah, floating point, as in they show you the examples of the output with the E, the big E, or the little e. Okay, G says use E for exponents with less than -4 or greater than +5. Otherwise, use F. In other words, for floating. Then a single character or a string or a literal character. So you could actually use 2% signs if you want to output the percent sign. Right? Are we okay with that? Here's some examples of them. A number, %20D. It makes the field width of 20. Actually, let me go edit my file real quick. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to say Choctaw 73020. Remember with city 73110. Del City, no space.
Notice it's got 2 zip codes.
What?
Notice it has 2 zip codes.
It does?
And it's got 73130.
Well, yeah, but that's for the... We don't talk about those people.
Why not? Because I'm one of those damn people.
Yeah, but you know, it's kind of like where I live. My neighborhood is half Choctaw, half Midwest City Schools. You just don't talk about the other people. You just don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, so now when I run this, you'll see that it's going to give you the different values. Okay. All right, so let's continue on there. So where was I going with this? Okay, but what if we want to set a fixed width? Okay, I'm going to add a third value here. What else can we add? Oh, I mean a third element for Oklahoma. But you didn't know that one.
No, we didn't.
That's where I'm from. Okay, so if I run this now, will the output be any different? No. Because, actually, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to say city. I'm going to say zip. And we also want state. Okay, it didn't need the colon. I just put it in there. Then... Okay, let's see what this does now. So now we should get all of them unless I mistype something. Okay, city should have been backwards there, but it's okay. But what if I want this all to line up nice and pretty? That's kind of jumbled, don't you agree? I mean, it's not lined up very well. Well, let's change this. Get out of here. Now I'm going to put a 20 right there to see what it does. Okay? Okay. What it did was it made the first value, which is the city, in a field width of 20. Okay? It's a little big, so let's bring it down to 10. Okay, and I'm going to put let's put a 4 for the state. No, actually, yes. Let's put a 4 for the state and a 4 for the, 4 for the zip and a 4 for the state. All right. So you'll now see that the table is much better. It's now nicely aligned, easy to read. But let's go back to my code here. I need both of these. Let's look at the output and see. So I'm saying city. I'm saying in a field width of 10, I'll put a string. Okay, which we did. Output, basically right aligned, 10 wide. But here's the problem. Here I said, I'll put a string in a field width of 4. What did I get?
Not 4.
It's not 4, it's 5. That's the minimum. Okay? The %4s means a field width minimum of 4. If it is longer, we'll output more. And the data element happened to be 5, so it output 5. Okay. Then the state, it output 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. See, it's just that this data element was longer than 4, so it would output more than 4. Okay. Let's continue on. Okay. So we can specify the width. Okay. Now, what if we want to make it left justified? Let's put a minus sign here. Okay. Now we're going to run it. Now you'll see, actually it looks a little better. I think it looks better that way. If we didn't have the format specifiers in there, it'd be kind of all jumbled up. So, but you can very easily see how we're taking a plain old text file, now putting it to the screen. Okay? You know, this really drives me crazy. I'm going to edit replace all spaces with percent signs. No, with colons. Replace all. Okay? The reason is I really hate the fact that I can't have spaces in it. Okay? Now, so I changed my file. Now I'm going to go over here. What do I need to do to fix this? Because if I run this now, it crashes. All I did was I put a colon in it instead of a space. Everybody see that? So how do I fix it? No. I want to break it apart on colons now rather than spaces. Maybe line 5, possibly. Near the end. Like, possibly, I lost my mouse. Maybe right in here. Ta-da! It's amazing. Because I told it to break it apart by colons now, which means I can use spaces in my names. See, now Boca Raton would work. Okay? But there's a problem. What's wrong with it? Zips aren't lined up. Yes, exactly. For some people, that would kill them. It's kind of like leaving the microwave door open.
I can't believe you would throw up your text in that one line.
So, because remember, format specifiers, that's the minimum length. Okay? The easiest fix for that is increase the width. Ta-da! Is everybody happy now? All the ADD, ADHD, ABCs are fixed? Or that? No, it's OCD.
There you go.
It's not. Is it OCD?
Obsessive compulsive.
That's what. It's OCD. No, it's ACD.
ADHD.
It's one of them. It's ADD. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's fixed now. See, no Ritalin required. We fixed it with a number. Okay. But so remember, the format specifiers, the width that we specify is the minimum. Okay? And the minus sign made it left justified. So that's kind of cool. It's looking good. All right. All right, so the plus 20 is obviously right justified. The default for a string is right justified. The default for an integer is left justified. Okay? So put in a 20 character width, fill the rest with zeros. Okay? Let's look at that one. Let's go to our code. So I'm going to minus 15, 0. Okay, let's run it now. It didn't do a frickin' thing. Oh, because they're not numbers, that's why. Darn it, it only works with numbers. My fault. Yeah. That part right there, where it has 0 to whatever. Actually, you know what? I can fix this. I can fix this. Hold on, we're going to fix it. The zip code should actually work with a D, shouldn't it? Let's try it. No, it can't. Darn it. Because my data file is not correct. Well, let's just leave it at S. But pretend it worked. Yes, pretend it worked. Because it should, well, okay. But, So basically, if you're using integers, you can put the 0 in front of it, and that'll fill the blanks with zeros. Okay. Floating point, now the 20.2 means a total field width of 20 with 2 spaces for decimals. Okay? Everybody got that? All right. Actually, you know what? We can fix this. We're going to make this work. We want to make this into a D. Help me fix this. I want that to output as a darn number. How do we fix it? %D format. A number is required, not a string. Help me. Help me, Rhonda. Help me. How do I fix it? There's something wrong over here. Okay, which one is the %4D? Is that value 0, 1, or 2? It's 1. So what's wrong with 1? What? I think, what were you going to say? You're probably right. Well, it's better than what Chris is saying, which is nothing.
Put quotation marks around it, or parentheses around it.
Parentheses is correct. How about if I do this? Convert to an integer. Ta-da! Well, that kind of sucked. What happened to the last zip code there for Simsbury? How did I lose a 0? Integers remove all leading zeros. So zip codes should never be numeric because of zeros.
So why did you get rid of the others?
Numbers at the end. Okay. The left side is a least. It's a non-significant digit. It's like if I was going to pay you $10, that's 1 0. What if I was going to pay you $010? That's still $10. Or how about 00010? That's still $10. But if I did 100, that makes a big difference. Okay. So let's now I want to change this. We know it's 5 width. I'm going to change it to 7 width. Okay. So now I want the zip code to output in a width of 7. But I want to fill the spaces with zeros. Oh, that's how we can fix it. Okay. So since I know exactly what the output is, I could really just say 5. And now you'd never know I even did that. It'll be perfect. Okay. So there's a few different ways you could use this stuff. Okay. Man, I'm doing way too many examples. We're going to be here forever. Okay. All right. We could also use name to get it from a dictionary and the key value, which we talked about the keys and the values a little bit last time. We just didn't do much with it. Okay. Here's a big old example of his, but I've given you mine, which is so much better, except he's using a dictionary here. Okay. I'm not requiring you to use that yet. Okay. There's alternative ways. You can use write, you can use read, you can use read line. Okay. Alright, so you can, like right here, read n. Okay. It reads a specific number of characters. Maybe I only want to read the first 10 characters or something. Okay. Alright. This read line reads up to the end of the line. So there's a lot of different ways you can use for input. And we're going to play with this more next time. We're actually going to see how we can read from the internet. We're going to make a live read right from the internet and not put it on the screen. I actually do it in one of my other classes. So did it in Java there, so we're going to do it in Python here. So far so good, everybody with me? Okay. We did enough examples there, I hope. I will have your program up by Wednesday, your next homework. So whatever plans you had for next weekend, cancel them. They're done. No, just kidding. All right, let me stop this.